The Miami Hurricanes didn't even play this weekend. They're still undefeated with 2 top 20 wins, and yet the Hurricanes have just dropped in the updated AP Top 25. Here's why.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I can't even describe how much we have to talk about today and for the upcoming week because it is rivalry week. It is officially hate week. Miami Hurricanes, Florida State Seminoles. College game day will not be in Tallahassee, but the ACC pregame show, what is it? The ACC kickoff, ACC something or other will be in Tallahassee for the game. And it's a big one. Now, there's a lot to say about Florida State, and I'm not here to troll them. I'm actually here to talk about what we saw in Florida State's double overtime loss to Virginia, because it gives us a better idea of who the Seminoles are before the matchup when Miami's going to go up to Tallahassee this weekend. The Hurricanes, who, just enjoyed their bye week, had the extra week to prepare for Florida State. We have a clearer picture now of who the Seminoles are. After dominating Alabama week 1, they played a couple of cadavers. After that, they did what they were supposed to do, beating up on East Texas A&M and Kent State. Then they had a week off, and then they went to Friday night to UVA and found a way to lose that game. So I have a lot to say. By the way, I'm Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. On this loaded episode, it wasn't just Florida State losing. The ACC is pure chaos this season. Chaos is a ladder, Littlefinger said in Game of Thrones. Hopefully Miami can climb that ladder, and it's not the Georgia Techs and the UVAs of the world climbing that ladder this year. But we'll get into the ACC, which had a wild weekend. We'll talk about Miami's matchups against Florida State because I have a clearer idea of what the Hurricanes are going to be going up against this weekend after watching FSU's latest performance. But let's start with the AP Top 25. Gets updated every early afternoon on Sunday. And even though, again, Miami didn't play this week, had the bye week, had a bunch of other big games around the country, and the Associated Press, in their infinite wisdom, has decided to drop the Canes. Miami was second in the country last week. Miami, on their day off, has dropped the spot. But, I understand why it happened, and I'm certainly not concerned about it this early in the year. Unfortunately, this drop, if you've been paying attention to Locked On Canes this past week, was essentially guaranteed to happen. Right? With Miami being off, there was nothing they could do about it. Couldn't put any more game film on tape this week. And it's very common. It's happened a lot to see a team drop during the bye week when other teams pick up big wins. It actually happened to Florida State a couple of weeks ago. They dropped during their bye week. And so I just knew heading into this past weekend that the winner of number 6 at the time, Oregon, versus former number 3, Penn State, the winner of that game was destined to rise ahead of us since that was such a high-profile game, and that's exactly what happened. Oregon jumps a spot in front of Miami. In my opinion, maybe beating Penn State is not the accomplishment they think it is because Drew Aller is 0-5 against top 6 teams, and James Franklin is mud, 4-21 against top 10 opponents, but it still happened. It's considered a big win for Oregon. They rise above us. Honestly, when it comes to Miami dropping a spot, given some of the opportunities that other teams had this weekend, we can be thankful, especially when you consider the SEC bias. We can be thankful Miami only dropped 1 spot this week because had Georgia beaten Alabama, Georgia might have moved in front of us. Same thing with LSU, who was number 4. If they had beaten Ole Miss, they might have jumped in front of us as well. And here's the thing, and I know people are already saying this in the comments, and you're 1,000% right when you say this. 5 weeks into the college football season, where we are fortunate enough that our Hurricanes are looking great, 4-0 on the year, undefeated in the top 5, in the top 3 right now. I'm not going to complain one bit about dropping a spot in the rankings. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't concern me. I just care about winning football games. Miami, by the way, this line just came out, the official opening line. The Hurricanes are favored by 5.5 points, according to FanDuel, in Tallahassee this weekend. Miami is expected to be favored in every single game they play for the rest of the season. Hurricanes have one job to do. Do not slip up. Do not lose focus. Do not lose your intensity. Keep going into every single game, every single practice with the 1-0 mentality. Try to go 1-0 on every play. Try to go 1-0 every week. Do not allow yourself to slip up like so many teams in college football have already done this year. Obviously, Miami has the literal strength at the line of scrimmage. They have the playmakers. They have the trenches. Miami has the pass rush. Ruben Hurricane Bain is the highest graded player in all of college football right now. If you take care of business, doesn't matter if you're number 3 right now or number 30. You keep taking care of business. You keep winning. They can't keep you out of the college football playoff, right? I mean, same thing would have gone for last year had Miami just won one of those 2 games that they lost between Georgia Tech and Syracuse. Would have been a top 12 college football playoff team. Same thing goes this year. So, teams moving up and down the rankings doesn't bother me. I know, a lot of Florida State fans are really upset that they dropped 11 spots after losing to Virginia. So don't lose to Virginia. If that bothers you, don't go out there against a team. I don't care where you're playing the game. Charlottesville, wherever. No business losing to that team. Don't lose games like that. Don't drop 11 spots. That's the same mentality I have for Miami. All right, here's a few of the things. And by the way, such a loaded episode coming up. We're going to be joined in a little bit by my good friend, GA Kane fan, Raymond Bourg, who lives in Atlanta. He saw Georgia Tech survived an upset. Thank you, referees, for not calling that offside encroachment on Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech survived Wake Forest. That team has a relatively easy road to the ACC championship game. We're going to talk to Raymond in a little bit, but here are some of the things that I learned about the Florida State loss at Virginia. And again, not here to troll Florida State. That's not what you get from this show. Like, I'm not here to, pick apart the final score or anything. But when I watched that game, I watched that game keeping in mind, okay, how is Miami going to match up against all of their units? That is the brain that I watch Florida State play with. Miami's advantage in the trenches is probably even bigger than I thought it would be based on watching the Virginia game, because they were getting pushed around surprisingly more than I thought by a Virginia offensive line that was down 3 of their starters on the O-line. FSU's defensive line was barely effective, could not generate consistent pressure. Miami's offensive line, we know, is considerably better than what the Virginia Cavaliers bring to the table. For Florida State's farther back on their defense, they struggled to make tackles. They don't wrap up. Miami's running backs, just so you're aware, can make them pay. Mark Fletcher Jr., top 10 nationally in forcing missed tackles this season. Marty Brown averages 2.96 yards, not per carry, 2.96 yards after contact. If Florida State continues their habit of not wrapping up and finishing tackles, Miami is a team that can make them pay for that. And of course, Miami is a team that all game long, offensive line's going to be leaning on their defensive line. Defensive line is going to be keeping their offensive line very busy with Ruben Bain on one side, Akeem Mesidor on the other, and a guy like Marquise Lightfoot who can come in and wreak havoc as well. Florida State is going to need to be considerably better at the line of scrimmage against the U than they were against the U of VA this past weekend. Virginia rushed for 211 yards against Florida State. They better hope that was an aberration and not a sign of things to come. Clear watching Florida State had, one really, really bad fumble, a couple of interceptions, one of those, the ball tipped. The other one was, Tommy just trying to do too much at the end of the game. But ball security, I shouldn't even have to say this, but ball security is going to be really, really important in this game. Florida State lost 3 turnovers against UVA. Miami this season, they've thrown 3 interceptions in 4 games, have not lost a fumble, knock on wood, have not lost a fumble yet all season long. You don't want to be seeing offensive drives derailed like that. Now, Florida State, their offense, it's exciting. A lot of eye candy. Gus Malzahn's been doing his thing for a very, very long time as a play caller. I think Castellanos is a really good quarterback for his system. So there's no doubt Florida State's offense can hurt anybody if Miami is not keeping contain, not keeping gap integrity, and God forbid Miami doesn't tackle well. Your night can get very long if that happens. And, in Florida State's passing game, and you would hope that on passing downs, especially if Miami can force them into 3rd and longs, that Bain and Mesidor are just eating Castellanos' lunch back there like a couple of schoolyard bullies. But Miami is going to need to contend with Deuce Robinson, Florida State's 6'6" playmaking wide receiver. That guy is an absolute weapon if we don't consistently pressure their quarterback. So, again, a big thing. Florida State's offense can absolutely be dynamic. I'm really happy with the way Miami's defense has played so far when it comes to their tackling, their swarming. I love that Corey Heatherman, Miami's DC, had an extra week to prepare for FSU. I think that could bode well and could go in Miami's favor. But if you're not tackling well, if you let that annoying war chant and the crowd noise get to you and take you out of it. But I'll say the matchup that I feel better about on both sides of the football after, watching Florida State for the 4th time this year, I think Miami's advantage in the trenches are sizable. And the Hurricanes, Miami, if they're having success running the football like UVA did last week, believe me, Shannon Dawson is not going to get bored of dialing up run plays. Like, he's not going to be like Billy Napier, where he's like, gosh, the running game is working, but why don't we just chuck it on the next 6 downs? That's not going to be the thing. Miami's going to keep running until that Florida State defense is literally broken. And Mario Cristobal would love nothing more than to win that way, taking time off the clock, keeping Florida State's offense off the field. So I think the time of possession battle is going to be important in this one as well. Oh, man. All right, here we go, folks. We're going to have a lot more to discuss on this episode. You're looking at that AP top 25. We'll talk more about the ACC being pure chaos. My good friend Raymond Bourg, GA Kane fan, is going to join us next. You want to keep it locked right here? We'll read some of you guys' comments as well. I see the live chat is absolutely buzzing today. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Oh, my friends, we are only getting started with 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get a boost when you need it. Folks, my favorite player is grape. It's been so for years. I recently tried the strawberry limeade, really good. I want to try pomegranate next. But when I put the 5-Hour Energy in my hand, I can already feel the boost that I get. Honestly, I love how fast it kicks in and that it's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing later. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new in-store and online. 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen, as we are officially in it. We're 6 days away from Miami against FSU. It is Florida State week. It's rivalry week. I know College Game Day decided to go to Tuscaloosa for Vanderbilt against FSU instead of going to Tallahassee. I mean, that doesn't bother me, because when College Game Day covers your game, you want it to be for a home game. They're on your campus. It's like a commercial like we had for Miami a couple of weeks ago against Florida. Yeah, I don't care whether or not they go to Tallahassee. It's a business trip. That's a business trip for Mario Cristobal, for Ruben Bain, CC Maui Noah, Inez Cooper, and all the guys. All right, let's bring on our good friend, G.A. Kane fan, is with us. Raymond, all about that. How do you feel? Do you feel any differently about Florida State after watching that Virginia game Friday night?
A little bit, not too much. Their defense showed that they're not as good against the run as first thought. So I think it gives Miami excellent opportunities. And like you said, the offensive line can really open up some holes. I was a little bit surprised at UVA, the ease of them moving down the field. UVA has always been a thorn in Miami side, especially back in the Shannon days. We lose every time we lose at Hoosville. It's like, oh my God. And I was not surprised. In fact, I thought the most ironic thing, me being a fashion person, is they wore their old uniforms back. I think it was like 92, 94 or 5 when they actually upset them and they had the situation where they both
it was
tied.
95. They gave Florida State
95.
their first ever ACC loss in 95.
Yep, absolutely. Because that's when I moved to Georgia, actually, from Tampa and Orlando. So I remember that very well because my roommate was a Florida State alumni. So it was very interesting watching that game.
I love that.
So that's the key. Yep.
Yeah,
So,
in terms of your feelings on Miami so far, I just wanted to let people know, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Raymond on today. Months ago, he was telling me, and obviously there's still a lot of work to do, but before the season even started, Raymond was believing in Miami as a national championship contender. You could see this, the green is his message. He says, faith 2026 college football champions. My message above, I was a little worried because I want to start winning titles again. And Raymond told me not to worry. And so far, so good. Again, a lot of football left to play. Got to get through Florida State this upcoming weekend. But this, to me, what I've seen in 4 games from the U, looks like the most balanced team Miami's had in decades, and probably the best overall team Miami's had since the glory days.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I made that is had this feeling was a couple things. One, I felt it was really wide open, and it really showed the season anyone can win it. But I felt 2 things that were crucial. One was a new defensive coordinator from Minnesota, who's very good. You know, part of the Rutgers and Schiano's coaching tree. He was very good. And I sent you an article from, I believe, the Minneapolis Star. Was really liked and respected in the ACC. How developed a lot of good players. Well, I watched the Buffalo game. They played the Bulls, not the Bills, and they were very aggressive. I'm like, oh God, this is going to be special. And the second thing was Beck, and I knew Beck had a chip on his shoulder. He was angry, and he was basically run out of UGA by the fan base, by the players, by the coaches. Yeah, it worked out real well with last night, didn't it, against Alabama, didn't it, for Georgia? So they're already trying to hang the OC and blaming the quarterback. So specifically, I guess on that play. With the play calling with the shotgun with Boba, which I thought was the breaking point, which is why Beck left. So that's why I had this feeling. Every blue moon, I get these feelings. Every 20 years, I'm like, I think this is going to be the year, and I still do. But it's not going to be easy, and I'm a little bit concerned as the schedule goes on.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain games that feel, maybe more concerning than they did. Or, I mean, I thought Pitt looked pretty good, but they found a way to blow it against Louisville. They had Louisville against the ropes. That's just part of why the ACC has been so crazy. But, you were talking about Beck, and like I mentioned earlier, Raymond, I said that, hey, Miami should be able to really heavily lean on their running game, offensive line to win this one. But I understand it's a rivalry game, and Florida State's offense could be really dynamic. So how much do you think the Hurricanes are going to have to open up the playbook this week? Because I feel like we've seen very little when it comes to Shannon Dawson's playbook. He hasn't had to go too deep yet, whereas Florida State had to use probably a lot more of their playbook than they hoped to in that Virginia game.
The biggest thing I want to see is more use of the tight ends. We have a lot of depth, at 2, 3. I think that's where it's going to open up. But I just want, ground and pound the running game all night long. I don't care if they, Beck throws for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm good with that. And we run for 300 yards and we've got a victory. We're in good shape. Just grounded. But I expect more action out of the tight ends more than anything else. And I think that's what we're really going to need. That's like a lot of people have been wondering, when is it going to happen? I think it's going to be next Saturday night at 7:30.
I could see that because we got a little bit of an Elijah Lofton teaser last week. Was not a full breakout for Lofton, but we'd been wondering, where he was the first 3 weeks. He'd been on the field, just not used a lot in the passing game, mostly blocking. And then he gets 4 catches for 43 yards against Florida, picks up a couple of big first downs. So I think that was probably a sign of things to come. We get this message from OSO who says, I would like to see Ray Joseph and Nye Carr get a surprise snap. I mean, again, I think we're going to see a good amount of receivers. I mean, Ray has gotten a decent amount of playing time so far. Obviously, Malachi Toney in the slot has been getting the bulk of it. Tony Johnson has some big catches. I would definitely like to see more Nikar moving forward. I mean, and also, I'd love to see JoJo Trader this week. I know he's had his injury issues. Mario has talked about it. Same thing with Jordan Lyle. And like both of them were healthy enough to play against Florida last week. And the crazy thing about it, Ray, we're talking about, pounding the rock. Miami has been so dynamic on the ground with Mark Fletcher Jr. and Marty Brown, and little taste of Gerard Pringle and Chris Wheatley Humphrey, but primarily Brown and Fletcher. And we've barely seen Jordan Lyle. Hasn't played since the first half against Notre Dame. Lyle was actually the opening day starter, and he's the home run hitter. So if he's fully 100% this week, can you think about how dynamic Miami's backfield is going to be with a three-headed monster?
Yes, and that's exactly what we need to do, is mix it up and confuse Florida State's defensive coordinator, who's very good, and keep running that ball all the way through and just passing it. I mean, we got the weapons, and that was the one thing living in Georgia, driving around, listening to the local talk show hosts. It's like, well, they don't have they don't have UGA talent at Miami. I'm like, no, it's better. Their recruiting has been better the last several years.
Yes,
to be honest with you. And now it showed last night. It has been better, and the defense is really bad for UGA. But I don't want to go down the UGA pike right now. But that's why I think they're going to do very well next week. But it's Lions. But also, I think Miami's got to stop Florida State's running game. They've got, I think, 300 yards more than passing. And I think the biggest key is what we're going to start seeing is Castellanos. He started to drop off. I remember he upset Florida State when he was at BC. Well, they started dropping off. They started here, so they got film on him. And don't think they're not looking at that BC tape from last season before he left, how to confuse him, because he did have some issues with UVA Friday night. Friday night games already screwed me up. So on Friday night, so that's the key is rattling him, because you rattle him. Florida State really, their backup is a true freshman. So that's the key, is to get through it. And I think they can do it. And our secondary is so much better. So it's not like last year where it's like, okay, they can, it's a pinball match. The defensive secondary is probably the most improved unit in the entire team this season. Thank God.
They obviously could get tested by a guy like Deuce Robinson, but I welcome the test. I think it's going to be an exciting matchup. We're going to keep it rolling here. Raymond Bourg, GA Kane fan, is with us. When we come back, I want to talk about the pure chaos that is the ACC. I mean, this guy, unless you're Clemson, who's already 0-2 in conference, the conference is wide open for pretty much everyone else right now. We'll talk about that. I want Raymond's reaction to the AP Top 25. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new Locked On Canes. Folks, we are proudly brought to you by Quo, formerly known as Open Phone. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app or on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo, that's QUO, formerly known as Open Phone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Folks, we're also proudly brought to you by FanDuel. NFL season is here. It's happening right now. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Folks, I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, even followed the live lines during games. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started with FanDuel. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. Alex Donno with you. We're live here on a Sunday evening. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We're 6 days away now from Miami at Florida State. Miami, by the way, fell one spot in the AP poll. Unfortunately, it was destined to happen with a couple other big games going on. Oregon, with their win against Penn State, moved up to number 2. Miami on their day off falls to number 3. FSU, by the way, fell from number 7 down to number 18. I can understand how they're whining and complaining about Alabama, being ranked 10th despite the head-to-head loss to Florida State. But Raymond, it's also true that Virginia is ranked 24th, 6 spots behind Florida State, despite a head-to-head win over Florida State. So this is why I keep saying, win all your games. None of this crap matters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. The way the bowl situation used to be in the old BCS is gone. It's basically get into the playoffs and start from scratch from there. The polls mean nothing right now. Now they're worthless now. They really are. I don't want to get into my process or logic. That's the comment of people that the way they're ranking these things. It didn't bother me the Ducks got jumped. I mean, they did have a very impressive win against Penn State away at night during the whiteout. Ohio State somewhat struggled at the beginning at UW. They were so crazy enough to have that. I don't know if you saw that fake punt, that fake field goal punt, whatever. I'm like, what were you doing? It was the guy that the kicker throws it, and it's like the Titans got three Ohio State guys on him as well too. And then I still understand, like, with the Wake check in to go quickly here is why don't you just go for the extra point and go for the second overtime? I don't understand these guys. We got to try to win now. No, I mean the way they were playing, they could have got turnover or something, but I don't understand. Just keep playing. Don't just go for broke. And go for 2 so early until you absolutely have to keep it going.
And I want to talk about that Georgia Tech, they squeaked out a victory at Wake Forest, 30-29 in overtime. And what Ray just brought up is one of the things that ticked me off about that game, right? I mean, so they're in the first overtime, not the second. In the second overtime, you have to go for 2. First overtime, you don't. Georgia Tech had the ball first in overtime. They scored a touchdown. Wake Forest answered with a touchdown. But their head coach, Jake Dickert, at home, mind you, this is usually a decision you make when you're on the road. You're like, let's get out of here. Let's try to win or lose this game with a 2-point. Dickert goes for the 2-point conversion. Of course, they fail. Georgia Tech wins the game. But Raymond, unfortunately for Wake Forest, it never should have even gotten to that point because late in the fourth quarter, Wake Forest is up 7 on a drive to try to ice the win, score, milk out the clock, and a Georgia Tech defensive lineman, or it might have been a linebacker, was lined up clear. He was in the neutral zone. He was lined up offsides in the neutral zone. And was it Ashton Daniels, the quarterback from Wake Forest, actually made the heads up decision when the ball was snapped. He knew they've got a guy lined up offsides. It's a free play, he thought. So I'm going to throw it deep. Right. His coach, completely different decision he would have made had it not been a guy lined up offside. So, of course, the deep attempt incomplete. They don't call the penalty. Wake Forest has to punt. They got screwed.
And as normal, the ACC made an apology. The referees got that wrong. It looked like it was a corner blitz. And real quick to correct you, I think the 2-point conversions is for the third overtime. The first 2 you can kick. No,
I think it's the second because I was watching. There was another because the Florida State Virginia game. I think in the second overtime they both had to go for 2. I think they made it the second now.
I thought it was third, but maybe they changed it this year, and they could have. But I thought it was the third. But no matter what, you have to make you need to keep that extra point. But Tech squeaked away with maybe the second worst team next to Stanford in the ACC, and that doesn't help them at all. But they still won. Bottom line is you win in advance, and they won at Wake. So we'll see what happens the rest of the year. And the rest of their schedule is pretty weak at Tech too.
It is. That's why, they got through that one, and now it's like they got a bunch of other easy games. So other games, obviously, the craziest result in the ACC was Virginia upsetting Florida State. So Florida State drops to 0-1 in conference. Virginia's 2-0 in the ACC, by the way. So is Georgia Tech. Syracuse, not if you understand the situation, them being without their starting quarterback, Steve Angeli, for the rest of the year. It's not that surprising that they lost to Duke. But I was surprised, Raymond, that they got blown out at home. That was no matter who is quarterbacking the Orange, to get blown out 38-3 in the Dome. I thought that was a really bad look for Syracuse.
It was. The defense played fairly well, but he was turning it over very early, and you could just tell he was the whole team. Actually, that was one of the games I really focused on for the first three quarters was the Cuse game, and I'm like, oh god, they were just a different team with that quarterback, and it doesn't look good for the rest of the season at all for Cuse. Unfortunately, I think it's going to fall apart. And it's unfortunate, very sad because they look so good against Clemson.
Yeah, they did. I bet everybody does, I guess. I think even Troy looked pretty good against Clemson. Might be a Clemson
yeah,
thing
really.
at this point.
Hey, you got to be careful that my cousin-in-law played for Troy like 20 years ago. So I am familiar with that school. Okay. Yeah, he played, I think, defensive lineman, linebacker. Maybe that was near like 1AA. But yeah, the Clemson's a mess right now too. But the one team I want to pop in here about chaos. The one team that scares me in Miami's schedule, and it's not, and you may surprise you, it's NC State. They got to go to Miami. They've been playing.
I mean, you saw what happened yesterday, though. They lost to Virginia freaking Tech. But I get it. I get it. Okay, they lost. Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. No, but still, listen, CJ Bailey, South Florida kid coming home. Yeah, so that was one of the other crazy results. So, Louisville's better than Pittsburgh, but they were down 17-0. They came back and won 34-27. Cal beat Boston College 28-24. Neither of those teams are that good. I like Cal's quarterback, JKS, but he's so young. I think he's going to be more of a factor down the road.
Cal surprised me. Cal's played well this year, but they lost well. Sorry about that, but NC State still worries me. They're still a decent team. They lost to Va Tech. I didn't realize that. I was watching other school games. I must have missed that one, but they're still a team that scares me. They're not a bad team. They're not completely bad. Yeah, they lost against that, but things happen. But the one thing, too, is I'm thinking about this is with college, the old days, you lose early, you're on the table, you go to your bowl game, and you win a national championship. College is going to start turning into the NFL. It's one of the things you don't lose all year, and sometimes it's good to lose late or right before the playoffs in the NFL because then you get that out of your system. And then maybe a situation we're going to start seeing in college. Okay, you got your loss out. You make your corrections. Better to lose like during the regular season, get into the playoffs, than lose into the first or second round of the playoffs and just playing horrible. Because after a team loses, things get tightened up, specifically. We'll see what Mario, they'll say they lost, how Mario would be, how they're going to be like Tech's the coach's first comment, like, we played horrible. We got a lot of work to do. And that's scary. And that's the thing about, running that table and then getting into the playoffs and not having a loss and not knowing how to adjust to that or losing big. Trying to come back from behind, lose. We have not done that yet. I don't think we've been behind all year. I don't think
we haven't. Yeah, we've been leading or at worst tied 24-24 against Notre Dame. Haven't trailed all season long. Have not.
It wouldn't surprise me if we're down a little bit by 3 or by 7 if Florida State gets the ball first.
Yeah,
it would. But that's going to be the real test of Miami. But we can. There's the opportunity to run the table. But NC State still kind of concerns me, specifically with the placement. And now we got a bye week next week. So they're going to have no break.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like the set. I mean, I want the second bye week to be like 3 extra weeks down the road, not right after Florida State. I think this bye week was really good because Miami played really physical for 4 games. Beat, I mentioned 2 teams they beat were in the top 20. The third, another one, Florida, was ranked at 1 point this year. They were not ranked when Miami faced them, but they were ranked for the first 2 weeks of the AP. So it's, Miami earned their first bye week. Now go out there, kick Florida State's and earn that second bye week.
Absolutely. And that just shows the polls issues. They put Florida early, and I thought they were still a questionable team because I still think their quarterback is hurt. And obviously it's showing. He's not playing well. I think he never recovered. Limited spring. So, the polls are obviously gone worthless. It's play your game. It's like Mario's been saying, 1-0.
Yeah. 1-0. Well, we appreciate Raymond Bourg. We appreciate everybody being in the live chat. I agree with you. 1 week at a time, man. That's all Mario wants from his team. He does not want anybody looking ahead. Doesn't want anyone giving the opponent bulletin board material. We'll see if Tommy Castellanos has any slip-ups this week. One other thing that I wanted to mention on this episode is, for those who keep track of this kind of stuff, you're probably aware that Miami has the record for the longest home winning streak in college football, 58 straight home victories. Our record is going to be safe for quite a while longer because Georgia was the team that had the longest active streak of 33 straight home wins. They just lost at home to Alabama. Washington had the second longest active streak at 22 home wins. They just lost to Ohio State. So Miami's 58-game home win streak is going to be safe for quite a bit longer, Raymond.
No, it's not going to change. And I remember, and actually it's kind of funny you mentioned Washington because that's a team that beat us.
That's
Many years. I remember that very well too, that weird kick. I mean, the one thing I was really shows that Erickson was there with the weird coin flip, and somehow we kicked it off both halves. It was really a really well poor game. If you remember, I still never got that, but UW was ready to go.
I mean, how bad do you have to lose the coin toss where they make you kick off both halves?
I don't ever remember with that. I'm sure Bruce would remember.
He probably will.
He's probably texting you right now if you look at your phone.
Well, we appreciate everybody. Raymond Bourg, everybody in the live chat right now. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to Locked On Canes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. He mentioned Bruce Warner. We're going to get a heavy dose of the truth teller this week. And I don't know how many episodes we're going to do this week because it's Florida State week. I got my game face on already. I don't care what just happened to the Seminoles. I still take that team very seriously. I know they're really talented, especially offensively. So this is not one where you're going to hear me get cocky or anything like that, although I do feel better about Miami's line of scrimmage matchups after, watching Florida State. I think the Hurricanes should be able to control the line of scrimmage. So huge thank you and shout out to everybody. We'll talk to you all again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.